So I made these VHS tapes. Now, now we have YouTube. How crazy is that? But back in the day, I could go and find like 15-minute VHS tapes, and I had my buddy video me with a camcorder, and I put them out, and everybody that came to Rochester, I gave this tape. Well, one of the tapes got to Eric Rutan, and that's how I got in touch with Eric to do Hate Eternal. And he was like, hey, I'm doing this band. It's a brand new band. And I knew Eric from Ripping Corpse and obviously Morbid Angel. It was a real trip getting a phone call from him when I was 18 years old.
I was just about to ask you that question. How old are you when you got that call?
Yeah, I was fucking 18. I was like I had just finished high school. So, yeah, when I did the Hate Eternal demo, that was the summer of 97, and I had just graduated high school. I had never been away from home. I had never done shit. I was like this brand new human being,
Yeah.
So I went there and I recorded the demo. And if you guys heard the Hate Eternal 3-song demo, or 4-song, I think 3 or 4, but Alex Webster played bass on it, and that was cool. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was insane to be linked up with these dudes that I was watching, when I would watch them play, and I knew who they were. So it was really cool. I ended up doing the album, and I did the first Hate Eternal Conquering the Throne. I was barely 20 when we did that album. And that album was done on 2-inch tape, no clicks, no real editing, just roll tape. And hey, I hope you can nail it. I remember the first song took like 26 takes or something like that. There's no punching. You play it front to back, and that's it. Hopefully you nail it. If not, we'll go back and do it again.
It's such a wild thing to hear, because that's such a pivotal album for a lot of us. Conquering the Throne, like, I mean, you hear about the Cerrito being involved, and how there's the songs that could have been Suffo song, riffs that you may have had for Suffo and shit, and then hearing how it was such an influence for Casey too. It's just like, it's so crazy to hear that you were just pulled out of high school. It's like NFL football player, it's
like LeBron James or something, just getting pulled out like straight in the NBA. Like, here you go, man. Here's the big leagues. Have fun.
I mean, I wish I had like a quarter of the budget that guy had, but unfortunately, it's kind of like that without the money. But
symbolically,
it was definitely like a really cool experience at that age, and to be involved in, and I'm really, really, really proud of that record. And
it made all of us turn our heads, dude. We were all like, wait, what the fuck? Who's drumming on oh shit, this dude's fucking sick.
I was brand new, man. No one else had discovered me, and Eric really is the one that found me and kind of put me on the map. And
it's our homie Dennis from Spawn of Possession commented, he actually wants to know more about the making of the first Hate Eternal record. If you have any more memories or insights of that, any Easter eggs, whatever.
So this was a crazy story about this album. I went and did the demo, in 97. And then it rolled down a year later, and I was still talking to Eric, and we were talking about finishing the rest. He was sending stuff through me to me through the mail in cassette, so I'd learn it and jam along to it. Eric was really it was his material and his stuff, so he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And I lived in New York, he lived in Florida. Even if I had lived in Florida and worked with him at that time, I would have just been doing what he wanted me to play anyways. It was easier for him to just get his drum machine and put the parts that he wanted, the bass, just the meat and potato drum beats that he wanted. And then I'd add suggestions, and I add my flair to it, or my feel to it as well. And some of it was a yay, some of it was nay. I think he was pretty dead set on how he wanted the songs to be. So we got together. He drove up from Florida and stayed I was living with my parents, so he stayed at my parents. We had a spare room area in the basement, and he was there for like 2 months. And he even got like a part-time job, just hanging out. And he was cool. My parents were cool. We would jam and work on the songs, and we got them really locked down. And then in the beginning of 99, January or February, I went down to Florida for like a month, and I stayed with Eric. And it's funny, at the time, Eric was living with Punchy, or Juan Gonzalez, was Morbid Angel's longtime tour manager. And Punchy and I ended up touring throughout the half decade that I was with Morbid Angel. So anyway, that's how I met Punchy. And actually I met him in 97 when I first went to Florida. I've known Juan for a long time and Eric for a long time. So I went down and we rehearsed, didn't do anything. We just rehearsed every day. It was pretty dull. It was pretty intense because he worked and I didn't have a car or anything. I didn't rent a car. I wasn't even old enough to rent a car. I was barely 20 years old. So
how'd you entertain yourself when he was at work? Just play drums?
I would play video games. I'd take walks. There was a pond. I didn't really have access to a drums kit because we rehearsed at a public storage at nighttime. So we would put all this shit in. We'd be going to a public storage. It was steel garage. It was in Florida, in Tampa. So it was really loud. It was so loud. I'd have to wear earplugs, and I think my ears would still hurt even with the earplugs. You're in a steel garage with drums and 2 half stacks. You know what I mean? It's just loud as fuck. Wow. So we did that for like a month and woodshedded and got it as tight as we could. Then we went in and recorded at Greenhouse Effect Studios. I forgot where, somewhere in the inner city of Tampa. And it was a few weeks we were having trouble getting tones. The toms, I still don't like the way the toms sound. I used my snare drum. It was a Ludwig, was it an Acrolite? I think it's like a 70s 14x5 Ludwig. Yeah, I think it's what it is, an Acrolite. They're silver, aluminum. They used them for so long. It's one of the longest running productions Ludwig snare drums, but I still have that. That's what I used for the snare. The China and a couple crashes were actually Pete Sandoval's, who Pete actually lent those to me. And he would actually come into the studio and check on me. That was the coolest shit ever, you know? And it was the same China and crashes that Pete used on the Blessed album and Covenant album. So it was quite an honor. And to this day, I just think that was really cool that I had that experience. It was a tough session because there was no beat detector. There was no just fix it on the grid. There was no click track. We didn't have clicks. We just rolled. It was a 2-inch. It was an Otani machine, 2-inch tape, and we rolled it. And hopefully you nail it. But I think the only songs that we punched were Doug Cerrito's songs because there were a lot of stops. So we were anywhere where there was a stop, we could punch. But we just didn't have the technology and the capability to do all that. So it was a grueling session. Like I said, the first song on that album took me like 26 takes. It was pretty grueling session. And then the photo shoot we did afterwards, I remember we did a photo shoot. There's a photo of us in a burned down church, and that's in downtown Tampa. Apparently that church is like renovated now, and it's like living areas for like a kind of hoity-toity hipster area, I guess. So that's what it is now. That church is up and renovated into like split apartments, all fancy. They used what was remaining there and put it together. But it was cool. It was just a very different time. You had to be able to play. You couldn't rely on, there's no, his feet are choppy there, or there's a stick click. Well, tough shit.
So is Conquering your first official recording?
Yeah, that was my first recording, and yeah, it was all.
Do you think that the 26 takes had to do with any kind of anxieties that you had for being in that situation?
I think so, yeah, because it was kind of stressful. I mean, I sat in a house for a month pretty much and didn't do much. We actually had another bass player that was lined up before Jared Anderson joined, and that guy actually went home. He was in Chicago, and he was like, one day he was like, fuck this, I'm going home. And he just left.
Damn.
So Eric had to find someone else, and he ended up finding Jared through a friend of a friend, word of mouth type deal. And Jared also he was a really talented guy. He had a great voice, he could sing. So he did, I don't know if he did any backups on that. Obviously, the other albums that he played on, he did vocals as well. But that album was, it was crazy, man. It was really bare bones, and it was just roll tape and good luck. And I really think that is magical because you can feel the human fluctuation all throughout that album.
That's one of the aspects of it that we love about it, dude.
it's really like back when we, so back then, 20 years ago, we really had to work with, we didn't have the best drum kit. And the kit was a Mapex with 24-inch kick drums. So it was really hard to get. We just triggered the kick drums. The kick drums are all triggered. I don't even think there was mics blended in with it. There may have been actually. Yeah, there was mics, a little bit of mics, but I think it was mostly trigger. And the toms were, that was all mics. We did the best we could do. We didn't have the right heads. But it was, it's still a pretty kick-ass album. For what it is, I think it was.
And you're flying on that shit, dude. I'm thinking about like spiritual holocaust right now. You guys just all are like flying on that track, dude.
It was pretty crazy how quickly it came together. But everyone was focused on, okay, we're gonna get it done. The album overall, I think to date, I mean, I think a lot of people will tell me that it's their favorite Hate Eternal record, and he's just, everything he's done is pretty remarkable. So it was really cool to be involved in that and do that album.